Paradox, elephant thought. Try this simple task. Don't think about an elephant. Just clear your mind. Focus on something else, but under no circumstances should you picture an elephant. Don't think about its long trunk, massive ears, heavy legs. Don't imagine it walking through the savannah. You've probably already lost. This paradox is based on the thought suppression effect, studied by American psychologist Daniel Wegner. In 1987, he conducted an experiment in which he asked participants not to think about a white bear for 5 minutes. It turned out that the more people tried to avoid the thought, the more frequently it popped up in their minds. Later, Wegner named this phenomenon the ironic process theory. But why does this happen? Our brain uses two mechanisms to control thoughts. 1. Conscious control, when you command yourself not to think about something. 2. Subconscious monitoring, when your brain automatically checks whether you've broken this rule. And this is where the problem lies. To make sure you're not thinking about an elephant, the brain has to periodically return to that image, making the attempt to suppress it pointless. This paradox appears in many areas of life. How does it affect everyday life? 1. Fears and anxiety. The more a person tries to get rid of anxious thoughts, the more intrusive they become. For example, if you're nervous before an exam, someone might say, "Don't worry." But this phrase only increases anxiety because it activates the thought that you might fail. The same thing happens with phobias. If someone with a fear of heights is told, "Don't be afraid," they automatically focus on the idea of heights and falling, which only amplifies their fear. Second, insomnia. People suffering from insomnia often face this paradox. They lie down and tell themselves, "I must fall asleep." But this only increases tension and prevents them from relaxing. The more a person tries to force themselves to sleep, the harder it becomes. 3. Forbidden topics. When a person is forbidden to think or talk about a certain topic, it becomes even more attractive. For example, in countries with strict censorship, banned books and movies become especially popular. The more society is told, "Don't read this," the more people want to know what's hidden behind the ban. This effect is widely used in marketing. When companies create ad campaigns with an element of restriction, "This movie was almost banned," "This product was hidden from you," audience interest spikes. The paradox in addiction psychology. People trying to quit a bad habit, such as smoking, often face this effect. They tell themselves, "I won't think about cigarettes," but end up thinking about them even more. Psychologists suggest a different approach. Instead of fighting thoughts, consciously observe them. This is one of the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. Don't suppress unwanted thoughts, but allow them to exist without emotionally engaging with them. How to overcome this paradox? 1. Accept the thought. Instead of trying to forcibly eliminate a thought, it's better to acknowledge its presence. If you tell yourself, "Yes, I'm thinking about an elephant," and that's okay, the thought loses its power and gradually disappears on its own. 2. Replace the thought with another. Try to redirect your attention to something specific. For example, if you don't want to think about an elephant, focus on a complex math problem or the sounds of your environment. 3. Mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness practice teaches you to notice thoughts without clinging to them. When a person learns to simply observe their thinking without judgment, the paradox loses its power. Conclusion: the paradox of elephant thought shows how difficult it is for our brain to eliminate thoughts on command. This effect influences anxiety, phobias, insomnia, addiction, marketing, and even politics. Understanding this mechanism provides the key to managing your thoughts. The less you fight them, the less they control you. Now try again. Don't think about an elephant. Is it still there? Paradox Omelas. Imagine a city with no suffering, no disease, no war. Every person is happy. Children play freely in the streets. Art and science flourish. And crime and cruelty simply do not exist. People live in abundance. No one knows poverty or hunger. There are no broken lives, no loneliness, no oppression. This city is a dream come true. But Omelas has a secret. Deep underground, in a tiny dark room, there is a child. It is hungry, weak, and terrified. Its skin is covered in filth. Its eyes have never seen sunlight. It has never known a kind word or a warm touch. This child did not choose its fate, but it was decided long before it was born. No one helps it. No one comforts it. No one rescues it. No one is allowed to speak kindly to it, to bring it into the light, to ease its suffering, because this child is the foundation of Omelas' happiness. If it stopped suffering, if even one person tried to show it compassion, the entire city would collapse. Every home would lose its strength. Every person would lose their joy. Every piece of bread would turn bitter. Every citizen of Omelas knows this. They are told the truth when they reach a certain age. They are taken to the basement and shown the child. They see its thin, broken body. They hear its soft sobbing. They understand that their own happiness is built on its pain. Some react with anger. They shout. They demand justice. How can we allow this? This is monstrous. They want to free the child, to feed it, to give it love, love they themselves have in abundance. But time passes, and they adjust. They find justifications. One suffers, but thousands live in happiness. Isn't that a reasonable compromise? If we save it, everyone will suffer. Would that be fair? Isn't this just how the world works? And so, they leave, they accept the truth, and move on. They return to their families, their celebrations, their perfect lives. And Omelas continues to thrive. But some cannot accept it. They do not shout. They do not rebel. They do not call for others to join them. They simply stand up and walk away, without words, without a plan, without knowing where they're going. They leave Omelas and step into the unknown, into cold, hunger, and possible suffering. But they leave because they can't live, knowing their happiness comes at this cost. This paradox is not just a philosophical fantasy. It is a reflection of our reality. We live in a world where the comfort of many is built on the suffering of a few. We use technology produced by cheap labor. We eat food that harms the environment and animals. We know that injustice, inequality, and oppression exist. But we often look away because it is easier. The story of Omelas forces us to ask, can a perfect world exist if it is built on the suffering of even one innocent? Can injustice ever be justified if it benefits the majority? And if this truth makes you uncomfortable, then what will you choose? Will you stay and learn to live with it? Or will you walk away, even if you don't know what lies beyond the city walls? Paradox time loop. Imagine that one morning you find a letter on your desk. It says, do not leave the house tomorrow at 2 p.m. or an accident will happen. You have no idea where this letter came from, but the handwriting is your own. You clearly wrote it to yourself, yet you have no memory of doing so. Maybe it's a prank. Maybe you simply forgot when you wrote it. But what if this message is from the future? You decide to follow the warning and stay home. 2 p.m. passes, then 3 p.m. Nothing happens. You're safe. But now, a question arises. If the accident never happened, then you had no reason to write the letter to yourself. But if you never wrote the letter, that means you did leave the house and got into the accident. So where did the letter come from? This is the paradox of the time loop, a logical trap, where information or events exist without a clear origin. One way to explain this paradox is through a different scenario. Imagine a famous writer receives a mysterious old book from a fan. His name is printed on the cover. Flipping through the pages, he discovers that the book contains the exact novel he was planning to write. So he simply copies it word for word and publishes it. But then, who actually wrote the book? A closed cycle is formed. The book exists, but it has no true author. This is called a causal cause and effect loop, a situation where cause and effect become indistinguishable, forming an endless cycle. Time loops become especially fascinating when discussing time travel. For example, imagine someone travels to the past and causes the very events that lead to their own time travel. They become part of a loop that has no clear beginning. Take another example. You decide to travel back in time to inspire a young scientist to make a groundbreaking discovery. You share with him theories you studied in the future. Years later, this scientist makes those discoveries, and they become widely known. You grow up learning about his work, and later, you bring that knowledge back in time. But if the scientist learned from you, and you learned from his writings, then who actually discovered these ideas first? This paradox challenges our understanding of time as a linear process, where the past affects the future, but not the other way around. If the future can influence the past, then is it possible that some events never had an original starting point at all? Physics and time loops. Physicists consider time loops as theoretical possibilities within Einstein's general theory of relativity. For example, closed time-like curves, CTCs, suggest that particles or even objects could follow circular paths through time without violating the laws of physics. However, these ideas remain highly speculative, as they would require exotic matter or extreme space-time distortions, neither of which have been observed experimentally. But maybe the real question isn't whether time loops are possible in physics. Maybe the question is, how do they shape our perception of reality? If information or objects can exist without an original source, does that mean that some things in our own lives could also be part of such a loop? Now imagine waking up tomorrow morning and finding a letter on your desk written by you. What would you do? Newcomb's Paradox. Imagine you've entered a strange game where a lot of money is at stake. In front of you are two boxes, box A and box B. You are given a choice. 1. Take only box B. 2. Take both boxes, A and B. What's inside these boxes? Box A is guaranteed to contain $1,000. Box B either contains $1 million or is empty. But there's one crucial condition. In this game, there is a predictor with an extraordinary ability to foresee your actions. He analyzes your behavior, past decisions, and even the smallest subconscious signals. If he predicted that you would take only box B, he already placed $1 million inside. If he predicted that you would take both boxes, then box B remains empty, and you only get $1,000 from box A. Now, you have to choose. What should you do? 2 conflicting perspectives. This paradox has divided philosophers, mathematicians, and game theory experts into two opposing camps. The first camp, take only. Box B. Supporters of this approach believe that if the predictor is highly accurate, it's best to trust his ability to foresee decisions. In this case, if you choose only B, then he has already placed $1 million inside, and you walk away rich. Their reasoning: if the predictor is almost always right, then the people who chose only B typically got the million. Those who took both boxes usually walked away with just $1,000. From a profit maximization perspective, it's smarter to trust the predictor and take only one box. The second camp, take both boxes. Others argue that by the time you make your choice, the contents of box B are already determined. The predictor made his decision before you made yours. Their logic: box A contains $1,000, no matter what. Box B is already full or empty. Your choice cannot change that. Therefore, by taking both boxes, you can either end up with $1,001,000 if the predictor was wrong, or at least $1,000, whereas taking only B risks getting nothing. These people rely on the dominant strategy principle in game theory. If one strategy always guarantees additional money, it makes logical sense to take it. Why is this a paradox? This situation seems contradictory because both strategies make sense, yet lead to different results. Pure rationality says, take both boxes, since the money in box B is already decided. Trust in the predictor says, take only box B, since he likely put $1 million there if he predicted your decision correctly. This paradox touches on fundamental questions about free will, determinism, and probability, connections to philosophy and science. Newcomb's paradox is closely linked to the debate over free will and predestination. If the predictor can truly see the future, then our choices are an illusion. But if the future is not fixed, then how can he predict our decisions with such accuracy? This problem mirrors discussions in quantum mechanics. Some scientists believe the universe is fully deterministic, meaning the future can be calculated in advance. Others argue that randomness is fundamental to reality, making perfect predictions impossible. Real-world analogies. Although Newcomb's game seems theoretical, its principles appear in real life. 1. Insurance. A person might think, if I buy insurance, I'll lose money. But if I don't, something bad might happen. This is similar to the box dilemma, paying up front for potential future benefits or hoping nothing bad occurs. Second, markets and investments. Investors often face similar dilemmas. Should they trust analysts' predictions and invest long-term, or should they rely only on current data? 3. Social behavior. Honest, predictable behavior can build long-term trust with others, leading to future benefits. However, some people choose short-term self-interest, even if it damages trust in the long run. Conclusion. Newcomb's paradox isn't just a thought experiment. It challenges our understanding of choice, predictability, and rationality. It forces us to decide between trusting determinism and maximizing short-term gain. Which choice would you make? Paradox Hilbert's Hotel. Imagine you're a traveler who arrives late at night in a strange city. The streets are dark, everything is closed, and the only hotel you find is called Hilbert's Hotel. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary hotel. But as you step inside, the receptionist greets you with a mysterious smile. Welcome. We have an infinite number of rooms. You glance around, wondering how that's even possible. But then, the receptionist says something even stranger. Unfortunately, all the rooms are occupied. But don't worry, we'll still find a place for you. How is that possible? If every room is already taken, where are they going to put you? Without hesitation, the receptionist picks up a microphone and makes an announcement. Dear guests, please move to the next room. The guest in room 1 moves to room 2. The guest in room 2 moves to room 3. The guest in room 3 moves to room 4, and so on. You watch in amazement as every guest leaves their room and shifts one number up. As a result, room 1 is now free, and you are immediately checked in. This is the famous paradox of infinity, proposed by the German mathematician David Hilbert. It demonstrates that in the realm of infinity, our normal understanding of full and no space left ceases to make sense. But the strangeness doesn't end there. Suppose that instead of just one traveler, an entire bus with an infinite number of passengers arrives. Now the receptionist comes up with another clever trick. Each guest should double their room number. The guest in room 1 moves to room 2. The guest in room 2 moves to room 4. The guest in room 3 moves to room 6. The guest in room 4 moves to room 8, and so on. As a result, all odd-numbered rooms become vacant, creating infinite space for the infinite new arrivals. But that's not all. Now imagine an infinite number of buses arrive, each carrying an infinite number of passengers. As absurd as it sounds, the receptionist simply smiles and says, "We have enough rooms for everyone." This hotel breaks all intuitive rules of occupancy. In the real world, if a hotel is full, there are no available rooms. But in the world of infinity, things work differently. This paradox reveals a deep truth about infinity. Infinity is not just a very large number. It is something fundamentally different. In normal arithmetic, adding 1 to a number makes it larger. But infinity plus 1 is still infinity. Infinity times 2 is still infinity. You can split, double, or add to infinity, and it remains infinite. This paradox isn't just philosophical. It has deep mathematical significance. It shows that not all infinities are the same. For example, the set of natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, is infinite. But the set of real numbers between 0 and 1 is a larger kind of infinity. And here's the strangest part. There is no largest number. At any moment, we could say, let's add one more guest, and the hotel would still have room. So does infinity exist in reality? Or is it just a mathematical illusion designed for thought experiments? As you step out of Hilbert's hotel, you realize something. You may never see infinity the same way again.